In the depths of the neotropical rainforest, where light filters through a ceiling of leaves in fractured, flickering beams, silence is rarely a stillness, it is a calculated weapon. This is the jaguar's dominion, not the open plains of high-speed pursuit, nor the mountainous passes of relentless chases. Here, in the flooded undergrowth of the Amazon basin or the tangled thickets of the Pantanal, death descends not with a roar, but with the weight of a shadow. The jaguar does not chase, it waits, it calculates, and when it moves, it does so with the precision of a predator evolved for one thing: perfection within chaos. Unlike most of the great cats, the jaguar has no use for long pursuit. Speed is not its currency. In this labyrinth of vines, ferns, and shallow waters, distance is limited, and visibility even more so. The jungle rewards a different kind of killer, one built low and compact, not for speed but for stealth and power. Weighing up to 120 kilograms, the jaguar's stocky frame houses one of the most powerful bite forces in the mammalian world. At over 1,500 pounds per square inch, its bite can pierce the armor of turtles, the skulls of caimans, and the thick hide of peccaries in a single crushing motion. Where lions and tigers go for the throat, suffocating their prey through constriction, the jaguar bypasses the struggle altogether. Its bite is engineered for instant execution, driving fangs straight through the temporal bone and into the brain. This rare cranial kill technique is a direct product of its ecological niche, a predator adapted not only to bring down its prey, but to end the hunt before it ever becomes a chase. This biomechanical mastery is paired with environmental manipulation. Jaguars operate in a world of sensory overload. Every rustle, every call, every splash layered on top of 100 others. In such an ecosystem, the margin for error is razor thin. Prey species have evolved an acute sensitivity to sound and movement, which means the jaguar has evolved in response. Its padded paws distribute weight silently across wet soil. Its muscular shoulders move with fluid restraint, and its dappled rosette coat refracts light, scattering its outline into the forest's fragmented shadows. Camouflage here is not passive, it is an active adaptation, not simply to blend but to disappear, to become a ghost within one's own habitat. Surprisingly for a large cat, the jaguar is at home in the water, not merely capable of swimming but proficient, even eager. Rivers and flooded grasslands, which would be barriers for most predators, are hunting grounds for the jaguar. Capybaras, turtles, fish, and even juvenile caimans are taken with practiced ease. Unlike felids that avoid water or cross it reluctantly, jaguars submerge, stalk, and strike from beneath. Their nasal valves seal off like those of a semi-aquatic mammal, and their dense musculature allows for short bursts of explosive power in submerged conditions. The rainforest's dynamic water systems are not obstacles to this predator. They are integrated into its hunting playbook, offering a vertical dimension few cats have evolved to use effectively. The rainforest's biodiversity and density mean that competition is not only common, it is expected. The jaguar avoids this by being a generalist in diet, but a specialist in execution. While other predators may narrow their focus to one or two prey types, the jaguar adapts fluidly. One day it may target a monkey in the trees, the next a ground-dwelling agouti or an armored armadillo. Its stomach is tolerant of varied proteins, and its digestive system handles bone and hide that would challenge other carnivores. This omnivorous hunting style, wrapped in the body of a carnivorous apex predator, is what allows the jaguar to dominate such a competitive biosphere. But what makes this animal truly distinct, what elevates it from merely efficient to exceptional, is its neurological wiring. The jaguar's brain-to-body ratio and enlarged cerebellum suggest a predator deeply attuned to problem-solving and motor coordination. In captivity and field studies alike, jaguars exhibit behavior indicating memory-based ambush mapping, returning to precise locations where prior kills occurred, even timing hunts to match previous prey activity cycles. This is not blind instinct, it is feedback-informed iteration, a form of behavioral learning uncommon in most solitary predators, yet essential in an environment as fluid and layered as the jungle. Even their vocalizations reflect a predator in control of its presence. Jaguars do not roar in the traditional sense. Instead, they produce a series of short, deep coughs called sawing, which can travel long distances without revealing directionality. In a forest where echoes are distorted and direct lines of sound are rare, this vocal strategy allows them to communicate across large ranges without betraying precise location. Again, even their noise is calculated for stealth. And still, For all its adaptations and weapons, the jaguar is under siege. Its territory, once stretching from Argentina to the southwestern United States, is now a fractured mosaic of isolated populations. Deforestation, poaching, and human encroachment are not mere footnotes. They are apex threats. In fragmented habitats, genetic diversity wanes and jaguars are forced into human conflict zones, where livestock becomes a desperate substitute for wild prey. It is not the laws of natural selection that endanger this predator now, but the distortions of modern development. Yet, within the undisturbed pockets of wilderness, in the flooded Pantanal, the thick Choco-Darien forests, and the southern Amazon basin, the jaguar still rules by silence, not by noise, not by presence, but by the unseen efficiency of an apex design. Evolution did not give the jaguar dominion through overwhelming speed or cooperative hunting. It shaped an organism of restraint, precision, and controlled violence. A predator that does not shout its supremacy but whispers it, through leaf litter, through current, through bone. In a world obsessed with loud dominators, the jaguar stands as a testament to the power of quiet mastery. An ambush in the trees, a flicker in the water, a breath behind the brush, and then nothing but the silence of completed design. At first glance, the African savanna appears deceptively simple. A wide canvas of golden grass, scattered acacia trees, and baking heat under an open sky. But the simplicity is an illusion. Beneath the sun-bleached grass and wind-rippled plains lies an ecosystem governed by intricate balances and unrelenting competition. Here, predators cannot afford to merely be strong or fast. They must be strategic. And no predator embodies this more effectively than Panthera leo, the lion. Unlike its solitary feline cousins, the lion is a creature of society, and it is this very deviation from the norm that makes it the unrivaled apex predator of Africa's open landscapes. The lion's most defining evolutionary trait is not its claws, its roar, or even its size. It is its social structure. Lions are the only truly social cats, living in groups known as prides that function more like military units than family gatherings. A typical pride comprises a dominant male or coalition of males, a core of related adult females, and multiple cohorts of cubs. This arrangement is not arbitrary. Every member has a role, every relationship a purpose. Female lions are the hunters, operating in close-knit teams that have evolved coordination behaviors nearly unheard of among other big cats. Males, though often perceived as loafing overseers, serve crucial territorial and genetic functions, holding land, repelling rivals, and passing on dominant genetic lines through intense sexual competition. It is in this social framework that lions derive their most critical advantage, cooperative hunting. In a savanna where prey is large, fast, and highly alert, solo ambush tactics often fall short. But lionesses, working in synchrony, overcome this limitation by turning every hunt into a strategic encirclement. While one group may initiate a frontal approach, drawing the attention of a wildebeest herd or a zebra cluster, others move wide and low through the grass, fanning out silently on either flank. Their golden coats blend seamlessly with the sunlit grass, and their gait is honed for stealth, not speed. It is only in the final seconds that the illusion breaks. A coordinated burst from multiple angles collapses the prey's escape routes, forcing it into the jaws of one hunter or another. This tactic is not hardwired instinct. It reflects learned behavior, passed from experienced lionesses to the younger members of the pride. Observational studies have revealed that different prides in different regions use varying methods based on terrain, prey type, and even vegetation density. In open grassland, some prides prefer wide ambushes. In riverine environments, others use the cover of brush and gully. The lion is not merely applying a fixed formula. It is adjusting the algorithm with every hunt. In ecological terms, this is behavioral plasticity, a key trait of advanced predators operating in fluctuating environments. Social coordination extends beyond the hunt. The lion's dominance over territory is rooted in cooperation, especially among male coalitions. Single male lions are notoriously poor at maintaining territory over time. They are vulnerable to rival takeovers and lack the resources to defend multiple pride females. But two or more males, often siblings, can co-govern territories for years. These coalitions patrol with regular frequency, using scent marking, roaring duets, and visual displays to maintain control over ranges that can span over 100 square kilometers. A roaring male lion can be heard from up to 8 kilometers away, not a tool of stealth, but a declaration of possession and deterrence. It is both a warning and a biological signal, reinforcing dominance without the constant need for physical combat. Sexual dimorphism in lions, the distinct differences between male and female appearance, serves functions beyond identification. The male's iconic mane is not decorative fluff. It is an evolutionary trait shaped by thermoregulation, combat signaling, and female preference. Darker, fuller manes are linked to higher testosterone levels and often signal a male's superior genetic health and battle success. However, this mane comes at a thermal cost. Studies have shown that dark-maned males tend to overheat more easily, especially during intense physical exertion or in hotter climates. In some regions, like Tsavo in Kenya, mannerless males are more common, a potential adaptation to the extreme temperatures where heat loss is more crucial than visual dominance. Within prides, hierarchy is fluid, but enforced through subtle social cues and occasional aggression. Cubs are raised communally, often suckling from multiple females, creating a shared maternal investment that strengthens social bonds.
Yet mortality remains high, not just from predation but from internal politics.
When a new coalition of males takes over a pride, they often commit infanticide, killing the cubs sired by their predecessors. As brutal as this seems, it is an evolutionary tactic. Females return to estrus more quickly without offspring, allowing the new males to spread their genes before their own tenure is challenged. Prey abundance shapes the lion's behavior as much as social structure does. During the dry season, when herds congregate near waterholes, lions may adopt ambush tactics based on choke points. In the wet season, when prey disperses across vast territories, prides often break into smaller hunting subgroups to cover more ground. Lions are not migratory, but their movement patterns shift dynamically in response to prey movements, a behavioral adaptation that reflects real-time ecological tracking. GPS collaring studies have shown that some prides adjust their activity windows based on moonlight and human activity, becoming more nocturnal to avoid detection or increase hunting success under cover of darkness. Despite their power, lions are under constant threat, not from natural competitors, but from human-induced pressures. Habitat fragmentation, retaliatory killings from livestock predation, and shrinking prey bases challenge the very cooperative systems lions rely on. A pride's success is not just biological, it's territorial. And as human settlements expand, the available range for lions to maintain viable prides and support hunting coordination diminishes. Understanding lions purely through the lens of power misses the nuance of their evolutionary success. Their real dominance lies in integration, of individuals into units, of tactics into landscapes, and of strength into timing. Each member of a pride is not an individual predator, but a functional node in a larger system. The lion is not the strongest, fastest, or most stealthy predator on Earth. But in the savanna's brutal ledger of survival, it has written the most enduring formula. Unity is power. Through shared bloodlines, coordinated behavior, and ecological adaptation, lions have evolved to turn the chaos of the open plains into an arena of structured dominance. This is not the tale of a killer who rules by brute force alone. It is the legacy of a species that engineered its survival around strategy, cooperation, and the hard-earned science of living and hunting as one. In the lion's world, strength is not a solitary trait. It is shared, enforced, and refined, pride by pride, season by season, generation by generation. The forest does not whisper, it waits. Dense and humid, the air in a tiger's domain is thick with moisture and rot, where sunlight only trickles through the canopy in broken shafts that highlight dust, insects, and the layered silence of ambush. This is not the open expanse of savanna, where group tactics dictate the outcome of the hunt. Here, every movement is personal, every kill solitary. The tiger operates in an ecosystem that demands stillness and calculation. It is not a predator that charges recklessly across the land. It is an organism built to vanish in plain sight, to become a living shadow among reeds and undergrowth, where success depends not on speed, but on silence. Few animals in the carnivorous world carry such a contradictory design. The Bengal tiger, among the most well-studied, can weigh over 220 kilograms, its frame built on muscle, mass, and bone-crushing potential. And yet, despite this size, it is capable of near-invisible movement through thick underbrush. This isn't a contradiction of evolution. It's the result of refinement. The tiger's massive shoulder girdle, reinforced neck muscles, and elongated forelimbs give it leverage over large prey. Yet its padded paws, flexible spine, and deliberate gait allow it to distribute weight with remarkable silence. Anatomically, it is a stealth tank, robust enough to take down prey over twice its own weight, yet neurologically wired for extreme patience and spatial precision. Camouflage is not just a visual strategy here. The tiger's stripes do not merely mimic shadow patterns, they disrupt the outline of its body in three-dimensional space. In the mottled light of dry, deciduous forests, the tiger's orange coat paradoxically disappears. Prey animals like deer and boar, whose color vision is limited, perceive the bright hues as dull shades of gray or green, a chromatic illusion that renders the largest cat in the world nearly invisible until it's already too late. The stripe pattern is not symmetrical, nor is it passed identically through generations. It is genetically individual, a biological fingerprint, and it continues along the skin itself, not just the fur, evidence of its evolutionary depth. Unlike lions, which lean on pride dynamics, the tiger has evolved to dominate as an individual. Solitude is not a choice, but an ecological necessity. Its hunting grounds often span over 100 square kilometers, particularly for males, who need expansive territories to find sufficient prey while avoiding direct competition. Within this territory, the tiger must act as its own scout, strategist, executioner, and scavenger. The sensory apparatus required for such autonomy is formidable. The tiger's night vision, enhanced by a high rod density in the retina and a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum, grants it 6 times better low-light vision than humans, a crucial edge in nocturnal or twilight hunts. Its hearing is tuned not just for detecting movement, but for picking up infrasound, low-frequency vibrations that travel through forested terrain, often generated by other large animals. But even with this arsenal of adaptations, the tiger's kill success rate rarely exceeds 10%. It is not a perfect killer, but a persistent one. Stalking behavior can stretch over an hour, with distances measured in meters, not kilometers. Each step is measured, each pause calibrated. It often relies on terrain, using gullies, bamboo patches, or fallen logs as cover, minimizing exposure angles. When the moment arrives, the strike is short and decisive. A burst of power from hind limbs, claws anchoring into flesh, jaws targeting the neck or base of the skull. Prey like sambar deer or wild pigs may struggle briefly, but the fight is usually over in seconds. The kill site is rarely near the sighting. This spatial separation, between where prey senses the tiger and where it dies, is a hallmark of evolved ambush behavior. The physiology of the tiger supports this model of infrequent but high-value predation. Unlike cheetahs or hyenas, which often consume their kill quickly and in the open, tigers drag their prey into cover, sometimes for several hundred meters. This not only protects the carcass from scavengers, but reflects an energy economy that's crucial for a solitary carnivore. A single large kill can sustain an adult tiger for several days. Their digestion is efficient. The stomach expands massively, allowing gorging after periods of fasting. They consume bones, hide, and organs with minimal waste, and their gastrointestinal tract is adapted to long intervals between meals. In regions like the Russian Far East, the Siberian tiger reveals an even more extreme adaptation: thermoregulation in sub-zero climates. The thick fur coat, dense subcutaneous fat, and low surface area to mass ratio enable heat retention, while their larger body size, nearly 300 kilograms in some males, reduces metabolic heat loss. Snow tracking data shows that Siberian tigers can travel over 20 kilometers in a single night in search of prey, navigating frozen forests with the same solitary precision seen in their tropical cousins. This flexibility, the ability to function as an apex predator in both subtropical and subarctic ecosystems, is a testament to the tiger's evolutionary versatility. Despite this resilience, the tiger's ecological role is deeply vulnerable. As an apex predator, it sits at the top of a complex food web, where every decline in herbivore populations or habitat fragmentation ripples up the chain. Tigers require contiguous territory, unbroken corridors of wilderness that allow movement, genetic flow, and prey access. As forests shrink and human settlements expand, tigers face not just habitat loss, but the more insidious threat of isolation. A lone tiger in a fractured patch of forest may have everything: claws, fangs, strength, but without territory and prey, it has no function. Conservation models now focus as much on maintaining connectivity as on protecting individuals. There is also the matter of human conflict. Livestock depredation near forest edges draws retaliation. Poaching for skins, bones, and so-called traditional medicines continues to threaten populations across Asia. Yet the biology of the tiger does not allow for rapid rebound. Mating is seasonal, gestation lengthy, and cub survival rates low. A female may raise only a handful of cubs in her lifetime to dispersal age. The cost of losing even a single breeding adult is immense. And still, within the protected reserves, from Kanha to Sundarbans to Sikhote Alin, the tiger persists, not as a relic, but as a functioning apex predator. Its presence is not ornamental, it is ecological. Studies have shown that healthy tiger populations correlate with intact ecosystems, rich prey bases, and balanced trophic cascades. When the tiger hunts, the jungle breathes correctly. Its pressure keeps herbivore numbers in check, which in turn preserves vegetation, which stabilizes soil, regulates water, and sustains biodiversity across layers of life. The tiger is not nature's loudest killer, nor its most efficient, but it may be its most refined, a product of millions of years of selective pressure sculpting muscle, bone, and brain into a singular force of stealth and control. It does not roar before it strikes. It does not rally others to its cause. It moves alone, a design so complete it needs no partner. In the end, the tiger's mastery lies not in overpowering the ecosystem, but in integrating with it. Every stripe, every step, every breath is attuned to the rhythms of terrain and prey. It is a creature of control, not chaos. And in an increasingly fragmented world, it stands as a symbol of ecological integrity, a solitary hunter whose very survival depends on the survival of an entire system around it. The Arctic is a world of contradictions, dazzling in its beauty, merciless in its terms, a realm defined by extremes where the sun may disappear for months and the sea itself turns solid under crushing cold. Life here is not just difficult, it is improbable. Yet atop the ice sheets and drifting flows of the circumpolar north roams a predator that has not only survived in this frigid vacuum, but has come to master it. The polar bear, Ursus maritimus, is not simply a land carnivore that wandered too far north. It is an apex predator sculpted by millennia of selection to dominate an ecosystem where warmth is a liability, movement is a gamble, and the primary prey lives beneath a shifting, treacherous ceiling of ice. Unlike other bears, whose diets fluctuate with seasons and whose territories span forests or mountains, the polar bear exists on a razor's edge of metabolic precision. It does not forage through varied terrain or adapt its appetite to local availability. Instead, it is a specialist, hyper-focused on one target, the ice-dwelling seal. This narrow niche, while risky, has led to one of the most finely tuned predatory machines in nature. The bear's entire physiology, from its oversized paws to its black skin hidden beneath translucent fur, is a testament to survival through engineering. To function in sub-zero temperatures where ambient conditions regularly fall below -30°C and wind chill can drive it lower, the polar bear relies on a suite of thermoregulatory adaptations. Beneath its dense outer coat lies a secondary layer of insulating fur, beneath which sits a thick layer of subcutaneous fat, often 10 centimeters thick in adults, that acts not only as a thermal barrier, but as an energy reservoir during periods of fasting. In many ways, this insulating blubber functions like a biological battery, storing lipids during hunting-rich seasons and burning them slowly during the lean months. This ability to fast for weeks, even months, without deteriorating muscle mass is not simply impressive. It is essential in a landscape where the unpredictability of ice conditions can isolate a bear from access to prey for extended durations. The paws, often mistaken as oversized, are perfectly proportioned for their dual role. On land, they function as snowshoes, distributing the bear's considerable mass across soft snow. On sea ice, they provide traction through papillae, small, rough-textured nodules that increase friction and reduce slippage. In the water, which the polar bear navigates with surprising grace, these same paws act as paddles. The bear uses its forelimbs exclusively for swimming, with the hind limbs trailing behind, a technique that mirrors aquatic mammals more than terrestrial ones. It can swim for over 100 kilometers in a single stretch, enduring temperatures that would debilitate or kill most other mammals, including humans. But swimming is not the primary strategy. The true artistry of polar bear predation takes place on the ice, a frozen stage where visibility is vast, yet prey remains concealed. Their primary quarry, ringed seals and bearded seals, live most of their lives under the ice, surfacing only to breathe or rest. The polar bear exploits this with astonishing patience. It locates breathing holes, aglers, used by seals, often spaced meters apart along predictable paths. Once a hole is identified, the bear enters a state of suspended stillness, positioning itself with precision and waiting, often for hours. When the seal surfaces, the bear's response is explosive, a rapid lunge and a downward strike with enough force to crush bone through blubber. This ambush strategy, reliant on timing, knowledge of ice topography, and silence, is so specific that it borders on tool use behavior. In spring and early summer, when seals haul out on the ice to molt or birth pups, the polar bear adopts another method: stalk and rush. With its white coat blending into the snowpack and low posture minimizing profile, the bear approaches slowly over hundreds of meters. When within range, it launches a high-speed charge, attempting to close the gap before the seal can reach the safety of the water. These chases are energy-intensive and often fail, but when successful, they yield high-fat rewards. A single adult seal can contain enough calories to fuel a bear for more than a week. Cubs and nursing females depend on these successful kills. Without them, entire litters can be lost. What makes this ecological role more remarkable is the polar bear's metabolic restraint. During lean months, especially summer when sea ice melts and access to seals diminishes, bears enter a quasi-fasted state. They reduce movement, slow digestion, and switch their metabolic pathways from glucose burning to lipid utilization. Pregnant females take this to an extreme. After mating in the spring, a female will consume vast quantities of fat-rich prey, building reserves of over 200 kilograms of body fat. She then digs a snow den, enters a state of torpor, not full hibernation, and gives birth in mid-winter, nursing cubs entirely on stored energy until emerging months later. During this time, she neither eats nor drinks, and yet can still produce lipid-rich milk that is nearly 30% fat, among the richest of any terrestrial mammal. Yet even with all these refinements, the polar bear's success is tightly bound to the presence of sea ice, a substrate that is rapidly disappearing. Satellite data over the past 4 decades reveals a steep decline in summer sea ice extent, with ice forming later and melting earlier each year. For a predator dependent on this platform for hunting, resting, and denning, the implications are profound. Bears are increasingly observed swimming longer distances, venturing onto land in search of alternate food sources, and facing more frequent starvation events. The finely tuned machine, optimized for an ice-based ecosystem, is being forced into a landscape that no longer supports its design. There is no direct substitute for seal blubber in the bear's diet. Scavenging whale carcasses or raiding bird colonies may offer temporary calories, but not the sustained lipid input necessary to maintain their enormous energy requirements. Attempts to adapt behaviorally are constrained by biology. Polar bears are not omnivores in the way brown bears are. Their digestive systems are optimized for fat and protein, not plant material. They lack the gut flora to digest cellulose and derive little benefit from terrestrial vegetation, even when accessible. Despite this fragility, polar bears remain formidable when the conditions are right. Their presence at the top of the Arctic food chain regulates seal populations, indirectly influencing fish stocks and nutrient cycling through scavenging. Carcasses left behind on the ice feed gulls, Arctic foxes, and even microorganisms that re-enter the marine system. In this way, the polar bear is not just a predator, but a node in a broader ecological web, one whose reach extends from apex to detritus. What emerges then is a portrait of a predator not defined by ferocity, but by design. Every inch of the polar bear speaks to its role, not just surviving in the Arctic, but owning it, until now. As the ice thins and the climate warms, the frozen behemoth finds itself increasingly mismatched to its environment. And yet, its biology tells a story of incredible specialization, endurance, and quiet resilience, a blueprint perfected for a world built on cold, silence, and patience. In the end, the polar bear is not just an icon of the Arctic. It is the Arctic translated into muscle, fat, and instinct. A creature that embodies the principles of adaptation with sobering precision. Not because it evolved to do everything, but because it evolved to do one thing better than anything else alive: kill seals on ice. When the ice holds, it rules. When the ice breaks, so does the equation. Beneath the blistering equatorial sun of Indonesia's Lesser Sunda Islands, The land breathes heat. Dry winds pass over volcanic ridges and thorny brushlands, brushing across an ecosystem shaped by isolation, fire, and time. Here, water is scarce. Trees grow twisted and lean, and most creatures live with an urgency born from scarcity. But among the shadows of monsoon-stripped trees and parched savanna soil moves a relic, a hunter whose roots stretch back to the Pleistocene. The Komodo dragon, Varanus komodoensis, is not merely the largest living lizard. It is a living prototype of predatory adaptation, an apex predator forged not in speed or brute force, but in internal chemistry and microbial warfare. In an evolutionary landscape where faster and smarter often win, this dragon took a different route, the slow path of toxic patience. From a distance, it resembles a creature built for intimidation. Males can reach over 3 meters in length and weigh more than 70 kilograms. Its gait is low and deliberate, dragging its muscular tail behind heavily scaled limbs. The Komodo's tongue flicks rhythmically, forked and constantly sampling air particles to map the surrounding world through chemoreception, a process akin to smell, but processed through the Jacobson's organ located on the roof of the mouth. It can detect the scent of blood from nearly 10 kilometers away, carried on rising thermals and twisted winds. But while its sensory adaptations are impressive, it is what happens after a bite, often long after, that truly defines this predator's mastery. When the Komodo dragon strikes, the attack itself is brief and almost clumsy. Unlike cats or crocodiles that aim for immediate subjugation through crushing force or suffocation, the dragon simply tears into flesh, then waits. Its jaw structure lacks the strength for a killing grip, but it compensates with deeply serrated teeth and a powerful neck. The result is a ragged, gaping wound, the beginning of a physiological unraveling that the dragon has engineered over evolutionary time. For years, it was believed that the Komodo's lethality stemmed from bacteria-laced mouths, a consequence of feeding on rotting carcasses and rarely cleaning their teeth. Studies once found over 50 strains of pathogenic bacteria in the saliva of wild Komodos, including E. coli, Staphylococcus, and Pasteurella. The theory suggested that after biting a deer or pig, the prey would flee, seemingly escaping, only to succumb days later to overwhelming infection. The dragon, trailing patiently, would then locate the corpse using its acute olfactory system and feed. It was a theory that fit the animal's behaviors and matched the environment, a hot, arid ecosystem where infection thrives and clean water is limited. But more recent science has revised the picture. In 2009, researchers discovered that the Komodo dragon possesses venom glands tucked into its lower jaw, delivering a cocktail of anticoagulants and hypertensive agents. These compounds do not paralyze or kill in seconds like those of vipers, but instead induce a slow systemic collapse. One component, PLA2, prevents blood clotting, while another lowers blood pressure by dilating vessels. The result is a prey animal that bleeds longer, more profusely, and enters hypovolemic shock more rapidly than from trauma alone. The dragon's weapon, then, is not its jaw, but the invisible chemistry it injects with each strike. The bacteria may assist in the long run, but the venom starts the kill from within. This biochemical warfare aligns perfectly with the dragon's hunting strategy. It does not rely on pursuit or coordinated ambush. Komodo dragons are ambush hunters by necessity, not preference. Despite their large size, they are capable of surprising acceleration, brief lunges up to 20 kilometers per hour, but lack the stamina for extended chase. Their prey, typically deer, wild boar, or water buffalo, is often larger and faster. The dragon's success depends on striking hard, inflicting damage, and then vanishing into the environment. Its prey may run, but they will not run far. In the days that follow, the Komodo will track the deteriorating animal, following scent trails and blood markers, reclaiming its prize with minimal effort. This strategy conserves energy, reduces risk, and exploits a physiological window of vulnerability that the dragon has helped create. The Komodo's digestive system is equally adapted to this lifestyle. Its stomach acids are potent enough to dissolve bones, horns, and hide. Few parts of the carcass go to waste. Like crocodiles, they often engage in food hoarding, dragging large kills into secluded areas to guard and consume over time. Group feeding can be chaotic and aggressive, with larger individuals dominating access and smaller ones forced to wait or risk injury. In these moments, cannibalism is not uncommon. Juveniles in particular are vulnerable, which is why they spend the first few years of life in trees, feeding on insects, birds, and small reptiles, and avoiding the ground-bound adults who might turn on them. This ontogenetic shift, where younger individuals occupy a different ecological niche than adults, is rare among reptiles and highlights the Komodo's complex relationship with its own ecosystem. By avoiding direct competition with adults, juveniles increase their chances of survival while also contributing to different trophic levels. It's an elegant solution to the challenge of intraspecies predation in a confined, competitive environment. Komodo dragons are cold-blooded, but their behavior often mimics that of warm-blooded animals in surprising ways. They regulate body temperature through basking, but unlike most reptiles, they maintain a relatively high activity level across a broad temperature range. Their muscular system and cardiovascular capacity support sustained movement and thermogenesis beyond that of similarly sized reptiles, allowing them to hunt during both cooler dawn hours and intense midday heat. This physiological edge, part inherited from their monitor lizard lineage, part shaped by environmental pressures, allows them to function as true apex predators in a biome with few alternatives. And yet their dominance is not secure. Human encroachment, poaching, and habitat fragmentation have reduced their range to just a few islands: Komodo, Rinca, Gili Motang, and parts of Flores. Climate change threatens to alter prey availability and nesting conditions. Even their reproduction is vulnerable. Females lay around 20 eggs in shallow burrows or abandoned megapode nests, and the hatchlings must fend for themselves from the moment they emerge. Conservation programs, including the establishment of Komodo National Park and captive breeding efforts, are helping. But the dragon remains a symbol of evolutionary success in peril. In the grand theater of apex predators, the Komodo dragon is an anomaly. Not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most intelligent. But it is arguably one of the most efficient. It does not overpower. It outlasts. It lets biology do the work that claws cannot. In the chemical language of survival, it speaks with quiet certainty, its message written in enzymes, pathogens, and a patience that spans hours, days, or even weeks. To watch a Komodo dragon in its element is to witness an organism that has rewritten the traditional rulebook of predation. It is not built to chase, nor to share. It is a solitary processor of flesh and heat, thriving not through speed or cunning, but through a slow, deliberate equation, one that calculates blood loss, bacterial bloom, and metabolic attrition with clinical precision. It is not chaos that powers the dragon, but chemistry, ancient, silent, and fatally effective. In the cloud-soaked highlands of Central Africa, where dense montane forests give way to moss-draped bamboo groves and mist coils through the treetops like a living breath, the stillness is deceptive. This is not a forest of silence, but of calculation, a world shaped not by predators on the prowl, but by powerful herbivores that have evolved to assert dominance through presence alone. Here, in a domain defined by steep slopes, limited resources, and tight-knit social groups, the gorilla reigns not as a hunter, but as a deterrent. A mammal so physically formidable, so socially cohesive, that violence is rarely necessary. Intimidation is the code, and evolution in this case has chosen mass over malice. The mountain gorilla, Gorilla beringai beringei, is a creature of contradiction. It possesses one of the highest strength-to-weight ratios among all terrestrial mammals, capable of snapping bamboo trunks and lifting weights that exceed several times its own body mass. Adult males, known as silverbacks, can weigh over 180 kilograms, yet move with an agility that belies their bulk, navigating steep terrain and thick undergrowth with practiced precision. Unlike apex carnivores whose muscle supports burst speed pursuits or predatory lunges, the gorilla's musculature has evolved for sustained power, to shove, brace, climb, and hold its ground when challenged. Every anatomical feature, from its broad scapula to its barrel-like chest and elongated forelimbs, supports one purpose: dominance through strength and posture, not predation. But the gorilla's might is not expressed through violence. It is embedded in structure. The backbone of gorilla society is not brute force, but a social hierarchy built on stability, presence, and ritual. Silverbacks lead family groups of up to 30 individuals, composed of females, juveniles, and subordinate males. Their role is not simply to mate or lead movement. They are enforcers of calm, their physical form a living warning against disorder. A silverback's display, a sudden chest beat, bipedal stance, or aggressive vocalization is not an invitation to fight. It is a performance calibrated to avoid it. These rituals have been shaped by countless generations of tension within the troop and potential threats from outside it, including rival males and increasingly humans. The chest beat itself is a phenomenon of biomechanical precision. Once thought to be a product of slapping the chest with the palms, high-speed video analysis has revealed that gorillas actually strike with cupped hands, amplifying the sound to carry over vast distances. The beat resonates like a drum, bouncing through ravines and ridges, communicating size and presence to other gorillas without the need for visual confrontation. This sonic signature is not merely loud, it is informative. Research indicates that larger males produce lower frequency beats, which rivals can interpret to gauge the physical prowess of the signaler. In evolutionary terms, this is a conflict avoidance strategy, an honest advertisement of fitness that saves both energy and lives. What drives such extreme development in a creature that does not hunt? The answer lies in the forest's ecological puzzle. Gorillas are folivores, leaf eaters, whose diet includes stems, shoots, roots, and the occasional fruit or insect. Their energy intake is low compared to carnivores, but the volume is immense. To support their size, gorillas consume up to 20 kilograms of vegetation per day. This requires not only a robust digestive tract, including an enlarged colon and specialized gut microbiota for fermenting fibrous plant material, but also a feeding strategy tied directly to territory and hierarchy. Dominant males secure the best feeding areas and access to females, and must defend these privileges not through speed, but through stamina and looming physicality. Their sheer presence is enough to shift the behavior of other herbivores, including forest duikers and monkeys, which will often avoid areas dominated by gorilla groups due to the incidental disturbance their movement causes. Muscle mass in gorillas is not merely a byproduct of genetics, it is an adaptive response to terrain and social tension. Mountain gorillas inhabit elevations of 2,000 to 4,000 meters, where the air is thinner, temperatures cooler, and movement more demanding. Their bodies, particularly the limb girdles, reflect this. They have exceptionally strong forelimbs, used not just for movement, but for manipulating heavy vegetation and climbing steep slopes. Their fingers are long and thick, capable of peeling bark or breaking stems with precision. The opposable thumbs and high dexterity give them not just brute capability, but fine motor control. Traits typically associated with tool users, though wild gorillas rarely employ tools compared to chimpanzees. Despite their enormous strength, gorillas are overwhelmingly peaceful. Aggression is rare, and most confrontations within a group are settled through non-contact displays or displacement behaviors. It is only when rival silverbacks threaten the social order, or when an outside male attempts to usurp the troop, that real violence erupts. These conflicts, though rare, can be brutal. Infanticide is a known risk during such takeovers, as new males will often kill unweaned infants to bring the females back into estrus and sire their own offspring. This reproductive pressure, while horrifying in isolation, is a clear driver of social cohesion. Females choose strong, stable males, not just for protection, but for the long-term survival of their offspring. Gorilla vocalizations, body language, and spatial positioning reflect a complexity often overlooked. Their communication system includes over 24 distinct vocal sounds, ranging from deep grunts that regulate movement to high-pitched squeaks used during social play. Much of their social behavior unfolds in subtle cues: a look, a shift in posture, a shared grooming session. These interactions reinforce bonds and prevent the kind of fraying that leads to destabilized group dynamics. In an ecosystem where predators are few but risks are high, including disease, food scarcity, and human interference, internal cohesion is survival. What makes gorillas especially compelling from an evolutionary standpoint is that they have achieved apex dominance without killing to maintain it. They are not built to chase or ambush. They do not rely on venom or claws to bring down prey. Instead, they are the outcome of a different selection pressure, the need to be unassailable. Their physical form exists not to conquer the forest, but to endure within it, to create a bubble of influence so complete that most threats never enter it in the first place. Yet their strength is not without vulnerability. Habitat loss, poaching, and disease transmission from humans continue to erode their fragile range. Gorillas are intensely susceptible to respiratory infections, and contact with humans, even indirect, poses a growing threat. Their social structure, while resilient, is slow to recover from disruption. Females take years to reach reproductive maturity, and infant mortality remains a concern even under stable conditions. Conservation success relies not just on protecting individuals, but on preserving the forest systems that sustain them. Food webs, migration corridors, and unbroken territories that allow groups to form, splinter, and reform naturally. In the modern world, the gorilla stands as a symbol of misunderstood power. Its image, often depicted as aggressive or monstrous, masks a reality of restraint, discipline, and extraordinary ecological intelligence. This is not a creature that dominates by choice, but by necessity. Its strength is functional, its mass purposeful, its social system engineered to prevent chaos. In a landscape where survival often depends on the efficient use of energy, the gorilla has mastered the economy of power, using its body not as a weapon, but as a deterrent, and its mind not for invention, but for cohesion. To understand the gorilla is to understand that dominance is not always loud or violent or bloody. Sometimes it is quiet, immovable, and deeply rooted in the architecture of the body. In the highland forests of Africa, where cloud and canopy meet, the gorilla walks, not to chase, not to flee, but to exist. And in that existence lies a kind of power that few predators ever achieve. A rule based not on fear, but on respect earned through presence alone. In the vast sweep of North America's temperate wilderness, from the towering pines of British Columbia to the open basins of Yellowstone, the land is shaped as much by altitude as it is by season. Elevation governs everything here. Temperature gradients, plant communities, the timing of snowmelt and bloom. Life in these mountainous biomes unfolds along a vertical axis where the passage of time is written in shifting bands of green and white. And amid this dynamic terrain, a predator of immense scale and even greater complexity moves with silent authority. The grizzly bear, Ursus arctos horribilis, is not a creature of elegant speed or ambush precision. It is power, repurposed for endurance. A mountain tank, all-season, all-terrain, and all-consuming. Unlike specialized hunters that depend on a narrow diet or hunting strategy, the grizzly exists as a generalist at the top of the food web, a position earned not through specialized killing techniques, but through overwhelming physical dominance and unmatched dietary flexibility. Weighing up to 360 kilograms in some males, and occasionally surpassing 600 in interior populations, the grizzly's muscular frame is not defined by one function, but several. The enormous shoulder hump, often mistaken as mere fat, is a dense mass of muscle and tendon, the powerhouse for digging, tearing, and climbing. These forelimbs are not built for precision, but for torque. When a grizzly swipes, the force can shatter bone and dislocate joints with ease. A single strike has been documented breaking the spine of a mature elk. A reminder that, though not a predator in the traditional sense, the grizzly is more than capable of lethal force. Its omnivorous diet is a study in opportunism. In spring, the bear roots through alpine meadows and riverbanks for fresh vegetation, sedges, roots, and shoots rich in fiber and moisture after the long winter freeze. Come summer, it gorges on berries and soft fruits in staggering quantities, sometimes exceeding 100,000 berries in a single day. And throughout this cycle, it supplements its intake with insects, fish, carrion, and occasionally live prey. In coastal ranges, grizzlies converge on salmon runs, using both patience and sheer weight to pin fish in shallows, sometimes flipping boulders or clawing beneath submerged logs to access trapped prey. In interior ranges, they scavenge winter-kill carcasses or raid wolf kills, using their superior size to displace smaller carnivores, a behavior known as kleptoparasitism, made effective through nothing more than presence. But for all its brute strength and dietary breadth, the most extraordinary trait of the grizzly is not what it does while active, but what it accomplishes while seemingly still. Each autumn, as the daylight shortens and temperatures plunge, the bear enters a phase of intense hyperphagia, consuming tens of thousands of calories per day, converting excess energy into fat reserves with staggering efficiency. Then, as snow begins to fall, it retreats to a self-dug den, often located on north-facing slopes where snow accumulation provides thermal insulation. Here, it enters a state of torpor that lasts for 5 to 7 months, a physiological feat that borders on miraculous. Unlike smaller hibernators whose body temperature drops near freezing and who wake intermittently, the grizzly remains in a stable torpor, Heart rate slows to a mere 8 to 12 beats per minute. Respiration drops, and body temperature falls only slightly, maintaining enough heat to preserve muscle tone and cognitive function. The bear neither eats, drinks, urinates, nor defecates during this time. Instead, it recycles waste products internally, converting urea into amino acids and using fat stores for energy and hydration. Bone density is maintained despite prolonged inactivity, a phenomenon that continues to intrigue medical researchers studying human osteoporosis. Even more astonishing, pregnant females give birth during hibernation, nursing cubs on high-fat milk while semi-conscious, in complete metabolic isolation. This seasonal withdrawal does not mean dormancy in the evolutionary sense. Rather, it is an adaptive suspension, a way to ride out the resource-scarce months of winter without migrating or risking exposure. It allows grizzlies to remain in otherwise uninhabitable high-altitude ranges year-round, accessing seasonal resources with minimal competition. It also explains why the timing of food abundance, especially salmon runs, mast fruiting, and ungulate calving, governs reproductive success so tightly. Years of poor nutrition delay reproduction. Years of abundance trigger more frequent and successful births. Despite their reputation for aggression, grizzlies are not indiscriminate killers. They prefer avoidance to conflict, particularly with humans, though when provoked or surprised, their response is explosive. Short-distance sprints can reach over 50 kilometers per hour, powered not by lean muscle or streamlined form, but by raw leg drive and anaerobic output. They can cover vast distances in a single day, sometimes over 30 kilometers, using an acute sense of smell to navigate terrain and locate resources. Their olfactory bulb is proportionally larger than that of nearly any other land mammal, giving them the ability to detect scents from kilometers away, even through dense forest or across open tundra. This heightened chemosensory perception is crucial not only for foraging, but for detecting the presence of rivals, mates, or potential threats. Ecologically, the grizzly functions as more than a top-down predator. It is an engineer of landscapes. Its digging behavior aerates soil and stimulates plant growth. Its scat disperses seeds across habitats. By predating on weak or young ungulates, it indirectly supports herd health, while scavenging behavior helps reduce disease spread through carcass decomposition. The presence of grizzlies in a biome reflects a complex food web, one that supports large herbivores, rich plant diversity, and the spatial freedom to move between elevation bands. Where grizzlies thrive, ecosystems tend to show resilience, and yet this very ecological breadth makes the grizzly vulnerable. Habitat fragmentation, road construction, and human settlement continue to reduce the spatial corridors these animals rely on for seasonal movement. In places like the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, grizzlies are increasingly pushed into contact with people, often drawn to garbage, crops, or livestock. These encounters typically end badly for the bear. Despite federal protections under the Endangered Species Act, grizzlies remain subject to political and cultural pressures, a flashpoint in debates over land use, conservation, and wilderness identity. Their survival is as much a question of tolerance as it is biology. In this context, the grizzly's story is one of balancing force with flexibility. It does not rule its domain through constant violence, nor does it cling to one food source or habitat. Instead, it adapts, daily, seasonally, generationally. Its body, built like a tank, moves like a rover, clumsy at a glance, but startlingly precise in action. Its strength is not only in muscle, but in patience, in metabolic control, and in the quiet understanding of place. To follow a grizzly across seasons is to trace the rhythms of an entire ecosystem, from the thawing rivers of April to the berry-laden slopes of August, to the snowbound stillness of January. The bear is always present, even when unseen, shaping the land through its hunger, its rest, and its rare but definitive acts of force. It is a creature of many gears: scavenger, digger, predator, sleeper, and in each role, it brings weight to bear on the balance of life above the tree line. In a world that increasingly favors speed, visibility, and narrow specialization, the grizzly endures as a testament to the power of range. It doesn't need to be the fastest or the stealthiest or the smartest. It only needs to be what it is: relentless, robust, and entirely unwilling to be pushed aside. In the fractured ranges of the North American wild, there is still one animal that walks where it pleases, alone, massive, and entirely at home. The mountain tank holds the high ground. The sun rises low over the savanna, painting long shadows across the golden grasslands of eastern and southern Africa. The air is still, dense with heat that will soon simmer to its peak. This is a biome built for visibility, open space, low cover, and few hiding places. Every movement can be seen, every silhouette exposed. For most predators, this openness demands power or persistence. For one, however, it invites something else entirely: acceleration. In this arena of light and exposure, where few can hide for long, the cheetah has staked its claim not by force or stealth, but by rewriting the rules of terrestrial motion. Acinonyx jubatus is not merely the fastest land mammal, it is the embodiment of trade-offs. A predator engineered to win brief battles and gamble everything on fractions of a second. At a glance, the cheetah does not appear imposing. Its frame is slim, almost delicate, lacking the raw bulk of lions or the deep-chested power of leopards. But this lightness is deceptive. Every element of the cheetah's anatomy is honed for velocity. The spine is elongated and hyperflexible, acting like a biological spring that compresses and releases with every stride. This spine, combined with long, slender limbs and non-retractable claws for grip, allows for double suspension galloping, a stride pattern in which all four limbs leave the ground twice during each cycle. In full motion, the cheetah's back acts like a bowstring, coiling and uncoiling to throw the body forward with explosive force. Its stride can stretch over 7 meters, and in less than 3 seconds, it can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. But such speed requires more than skeletal design. Internally, the cheetah's muscle composition is unlike that of any other big cat. Fast-twitch muscle fibers dominate its frame, fibers specialized not for endurance but for rapid contraction. These fibers burn through energy reserves quickly, producing heat and lactic acid in the process. As a result, a cheetah's sprint is not a sustained chase but a tactical burst, rarely lasting more than 20 to 30 seconds. Beyond that, the animal overheats, core body temperature climbing to levels that threaten neurological failure. At the end of a chase, even a successful one, the cheetah collapses into heavy breathing, unable to defend its kill from competitors. This is the cheetah's paradox: unrivaled speed paired with profound vulnerability. The act of breathing itself becomes a limiting factor. During a chase, a cheetah's respiratory rate increases dramatically, from a resting rate of around 60 breaths per minute to over 150. The chest cavity, unusually deep for an animal of its size, houses an enlarged heart and lungs that support this aerobic demand. Still, oxygen delivery is quickly outpaced by muscular demand, forcing the animal into anaerobic metabolism, a biochemical emergency mode that floods the bloodstream with metabolites and restricts activity. When the chase ends, the cheetah often pants for several minutes before it can even begin feeding. This creates a dangerous window where hyenas or lions may arrive, drawn by the commotion or scent. And the cheetah, built to run but not to fight, is often forced to surrender its hard-won meal. The claws, unlike the retractable talons of other cats, remain exposed at all times, providing traction during sprints. In this sense, they function more like cleats than weapons. The tail, long and muscular, acts as a dynamic rudder, counterbalancing sharp turns at high speeds. This allows the cheetah to pursue agile prey like impalas or Thompson's gazelles, which frequently shift direction in erratic zigzag patterns to break the predator's momentum. Here, the cheetah's agility matters as much as its speed. It must not only catch up to the prey, but anticipate and mirror its evasive maneuvers, an evolutionary arms race of reaction time, coordination, and friction. The skull is unusually small for a big cat, with large nasal passages and a reduced jaw structure. This compact head reduces air resistance during a sprint, but it comes at a cost. The bite force is comparatively weak. Unlike lions or leopards that deliver a suffocating or bone-crushing bite, the cheetah targets the windpipe, using precision rather than pressure. This technique is effective but slow, requiring minutes to fully subdue prey. In a competitive ecosystem, every extra second spent making a kill is another second in which the kill might be stolen. Social behavior in cheetahs reflects these physical constraints. Males often form coalitions, small groups of brothers or unrelated individuals that cooperate to secure territory and increase hunting efficiency. Females, by contrast, are solitary, except when raising cubs. This dichotomy reduces resource overlap between sexes and allows females greater flexibility in selecting den sites and hunting grounds. Cubs are born blind and helpless, requiring constant protection. Mortality is high, with predation by lions, hyenas, and even eagles claiming the majority within the first few months. To defend her litter, a female cheetah must keep moving, often shifting dens every few days to avoid detection. Her life becomes a sequence of sprints, not just across the grassland, but across time itself, always running just ahead of the ecosystem's many threats. The evolutionary journey that shaped the cheetah has been defined by specialization and bottleneck. Genetic studies reveal alarmingly low diversity among modern cheetahs, the result of a severe population crash during the last ice age. This genetic uniformity means that cheetahs are highly susceptible to disease and have limited reproductive variability. Sperm counts are low, birth defects are relatively common, and adaptation to environmental change is constrained. In this sense, the cheetah is not just fragile in body, but in lineage. It races forward with the momentum of a species that has survived despite itself. And yet, despite its fragility, the cheetah maintains its place as one of the most efficient predators in its class. Hunting success rates often surpass those of lions and leopards, especially in open terrain where speed can be fully leveraged. It does not rely on brute strength, ambush, or cooperation, but on a burst of mechanical precision that, when timed correctly, is almost impossible to evade. Its existence is a living blueprint, not for durability or dominance, but for optimization. The cheetah embodies what happens when evolution doubles down on one trait, refining it beyond the point of balance. This imbalance is both its strength and its weakness. It allows the cheetah to fill a niche that no other predator can occupy, hunting by daylight when others avoid the heat, targeting prey too fast for larger cats to catch. But it also leaves the cheetah exposed to injury, to starvation, to theft, and to the creeping edge of habitat fragmentation. Roads, fences, and agricultural sprawl break the continuity of space it depends on. One broken chase, one lost cub, one denied territory, and the cost is often final. To witness a cheetah in full sprint is to see biomechanics stripped to its essence, the spine flexing, limbs extending, lungs heaving, and tail carving through air as though sketching the line of motion itself. But the greater lesson lies not in the chase, but in what follows. The exhaustion, the fragility, the stolen kills, the soft cries of hidden cubs. Speed in nature is never free. It is bought with compromise. In muscle mass, in bite force, in stamina, in genetic resilience. The cheetah is not a symbol of perfection. It is a symbol of risk. A predator whose every success is earned against the margin of failure. In the great catalogue of predators, where many rise through brutality or cunning, the cheetah offers another path, one of physics, physiology, and fleeting supremacy. It is not the ruler of the savannah, but in those few astonishing seconds when it launches forward, no other animal comes close. It becomes, however briefly, the master of the land. And then, almost as quickly, it fades, panting, vulnerable, and waiting to run again. In the dry heat of African lowlands, where the grass grows in hard, wiry clumps, and the dust seems suspended in the air even without wind, there is an unmistakable shift in the atmosphere when a rhino enters the frame. It is not announced with roar or chase, nor heralded by the coordinated hunt of a pride. Its presence is quiet but massive, like a boulder that moves. Across the cracked earth of southern savannas or the thorn scrub mosaics of eastern floodplains, the white and black rhinoceros, despite being entirely herbivorous, projects an aura of unquestioned dominance. In ecosystems teeming with agile carnivores and cunning ambush predators, the rhino stands as something very different, a product of reverse warfare. It does not stalk, it does not strategize. It simply endures, armored not only in hide but in design. With some individuals exceeding 2,000 kilograms, the rhinoceros is among the heaviest land mammals, surpassed only by elephants. Yet its mass is not distributed clumsily. Beneath its thick grey skin lies a lattice of dense musculature and solid bone that allows it to reach speeds of up to 50 kilometers per hour when provoked. Not fast by predator standards, but devastating when that motion is paired with over a ton of momentum and a horn that can exceed 1 meter in length. Unlike the antlers of deer or the tusks of elephants, the rhino's horn is not bone but keratin, the same substance found in human hair and fingernails. But unlike human keratin, which grows in fine strands, the rhino's horn grows as a tightly packed fiber-reinforced structure. Regenerative, functional, and sharpened through daily use, it is both a display tool and a weapon. used in combat, defense, and communication. Yet perhaps more intriguing than what the rhino has is what it lacks. It does not possess claws, complex social hunting tactics, or the sensory overload of top carnivores. It has poor eyesight, relying more on smell and hearing to interpret its environment. The eyes are positioned on the sides of the head, granting wide lateral vision, but limiting depth perception. And still, despite these apparent disadvantages, very few predators dare to challenge a healthy adult rhino. Lions may test a juvenile or a weakened individual, and crocodiles will occasionally seize those crossing water. But for the most part, the rhino lives outside the fear-based economy that governs most prey species. It is a defensive apex, not because it kills, but because no one wants to try. This inversion of the usual predator-prey relationship extends into its behavior. Rhinos are not passive grazers. White rhinos, which feed primarily on grass, have evolved broad, square lips, adapted for sweeping across open plains, consuming up to 50 kilograms of plant matter per day. Black rhinos, by contrast, are browsers, using their prehensile upper lips to grasp leaves and twigs from shrubs and trees. These dietary distinctions, though subtle, influence territory, movement, and even temperament. Black rhinos, more often found in denser vegetation, tend to be more solitary and more aggressive. White rhinos, more social and found in open landscapes, form loose groupings and rely more heavily on territorial marking through dung middens and scent trails. The evolutionary context of the rhinoceros is revealing. For most animals, evolution favors refinement through reduction, faster limbs, sharper teeth, leaner forms. But the rhino is an exercise in resistance. Its ancestors, dating back tens of millions of years, included a broad array of hornless browsers and semi-aquatic giants. But as predators diversified and ecosystems shifted, the lineage that would become modern rhinos moved in the opposite direction, thickening skin, expanding size, and prioritizing durability over dexterity. In essence, the rhino's survival strategy is to become too difficult to kill. It doesn't need to outrun a lion or outwit a pack of hyenas. It needs only to survive the encounter, and evolution gave it the tools to do so. The skin of a rhino is another point of evolutionary armor. Up to 5 centimeters thick in some places, it is composed of collagen-rich dermal layers interwoven with fibrous connective tissue. Though not impervious to injury, this armor resists penetration by fangs, thorns, and even some spear points. A biological shield formed not from rigid plating like that of reptiles or insects, but from thickened flexibility. This skin also houses a network of blood vessels that aid in thermoregulation, allowing heat to dissipate through specialized capillary structures, particularly in the ears and underbelly. To assist further with heat control and parasite defense, rhinos engage in behaviors like wallowing, coating themselves in mud, which not only cools the body, but acts as a protective layer against biting insects and sun exposure. In environments where temperatures can exceed 40 degrees, this behavior is essential to survival. Despite their size, rhinos are remarkably attuned to territory. Males mark their range with dung piles, not just waste deposits, but deliberate boundary beacons interpreted by scent. These middens act like bulletin boards in the bush, conveying information about age, sex, and reproductive status to passing individuals. Fights between males are rare but intense, often initiated when one intrudes on another's marked zone during breeding season. The battles are short, violent, and usually resolved with posturing or non-lethal horn clashes. Fatal injuries are uncommon but not unheard of, particularly when one individual refuses to back down. Rhinos also play an underappreciated ecological role. As mega herbivores, their grazing patterns influence plant community composition and structure, especially in savanna ecosystems. By cropping grass short and frequently, they help prevent bush encroachment, creating space for other grazers and maintaining open grassland dynamics. Their movement across the landscape also helps to create trails and wallows that collect rainwater, forming microhabitats used by insects, amphibians, and birds. In this way, the rhino's impact extends beyond its bulk. It shapes environments with every step, turning sheer presence into ecological function. Yet for all their power, rhinos are not invincible. Their greatest threat does not come from lions or hyenas, but from a species that does not hunt for hunger. Poaching, driven by demand for horn in illegal markets, has decimated populations across Africa and Asia. Despite international bans, conservation zones, and protective efforts, thousands of rhinos are killed each year for horns falsely believed to hold medicinal properties. The irony is stark. A structure evolved for defense now paints a target on the very animal it was meant to protect. As populations decline, genetic diversity shrinks, reproductive success drops, and entire ecosystems risk collapse due to the absence of their largest herbivore engineer. But conservation efforts are ongoing, with some glimmers of hope. In protected areas where poaching is suppressed, rhino numbers stabilize. Translocation programs, anti-poaching patrols, and even horn removal strategies have shown mixed but measurable success. Yet these efforts require continuous funding, political will, and public engagement, elements that are more fragile than the animals themselves. The rhino is a biological marvel, but its future depends on cultural change, not evolution. In the hierarchy of predators and prey, the rhino defies simple categorization. It is not built to kill, but few dare to provoke it. It is not cunning, but it knows its land. It does not chase, but it holds ground. In the long arc of mammalian evolution, it represents a path rarely taken, one where the best way to survive is not to escape, but to outlast. Not to strike first, but to stand so solidly that the strike never comes. To watch a rhino move across the savannah, deliberate, calm, immovable, is to see what happens when nature chooses armor over agility. It is not flashy, not fast, not complex, but it works. And in an era of fragility, of fractured habitats and shifting climates, that kind of simplicity might be the most powerful strategy of all. Across Earth's varied biomes, the tangled green depths of rainforests, the wind-swept savannas, the fractured polar ice, and volcanic islands scorched by equatorial sun, evolution has given rise to many forms of killing. But as the dust settles across our journey through apex predators, one thing becomes clear: there is no singular blueprint for what makes a dominant hunter. Nature did not choose one model to crown as superior. Instead, it sculpted strength in context, forging bodies, behaviors, and strategies that answer to the challenges of each unique environment. Every apex predator we've explored is not the product of maximum aggression or brute perfection, but of fit. A perfect alignment of physiology and ecosystem. Take force, for example. The raw power to break, crush, or throw. The grizzly bear's forelimbs, backed by its dense shoulder hump and reinforced bones, deliver bone-shattering swipes with terrifying efficiency. The jaguar too commands force, not through size, but through the densest bite force of any big cat, capable of piercing the skulls and shells of armored prey. Yet that same force is nearly irrelevant in the cheetah, which sacrifices muscular bulk for speed. In cheetahs, the skeletal lightness and explosive fast-twitch muscle fibers strip away force in favor of acceleration, trading lasting power for a lethal 10-second window. Meanwhile, the Komodo dragon wields a quieter force, not in the muscles themselves, but in its ability to chemically disassemble prey over time, allowing venom and infection to do what it cannot with teeth alone. In terms of speed, no terrestrial animal rivals the cheetah. But speed, like every evolutionary gift, is expensive. The cheetah is efficient only within narrow spatial and temporal constraints. On the open plains and under favorable temperatures, it thrives. But it is fragile, easily injured, easily robbed, and biologically inflexible. Compare that to the tiger, slower, heavier, and far more robust. Yet the tiger compensates with stealth and patience, blending its striped coat into the foliage and operating almost invisibly. The tiger's method is not about chasing down prey, but about arriving, silent, precise, and devastating. Brains offer another path. Gorillas, though not hunters, dominate their environment through social stability, memory, and psychological power. A silverback doesn't need to kill to control. It communicates with posture, chest beats, and the orchestration of harmony within the troop. Similarly, lions embody brain and brawn through social architecture. Their coordination, particularly among lionesses during hunts or males during territory defense, transforms the group into a thinking organism. No other apex predator has made cooperation such a central survival strategy, and no other relies so heavily on shared responsibility for territory, offspring, and food acquisition. Social power emerges as a critical axis, not only among lions or gorillas, but in wolf packs, orca pods, and African wild dog clans across other ecosystems. In these examples, the pack is the weapon. the group becomes an extension of the individual. These predators trade individual adaptability for a collective advantage: wider hunting range, cooperative childcare, and more efficient takedowns of larger prey. The downside is obvious: dependence. If the group fractures, so does the survival plan. In contrast, the jaguar and tiger represent the solitary archetype, solo stalkers capable of maintaining apex status without allies. These cats have evolved to process information independently, to kill without assistance, and to defend vast territories against rivals. Solitude offers autonomy, but requires exceptional versatility in hunting and territorial enforcement. The cheetah stands at an awkward midpoint, largely solitary, yet sometimes forming male coalitions to survive territorial challenges. Even its social system is adapted for efficiency, rather than true cohesion. Then there's the matter of stealth, a trait more varied and specialized than speed or strength. Jaguars melt into the mottled greens of rainforests, using dappled light and shadow to close the gap without detection. Tigers employ vertical striping to disrupt their silhouette in tall grasses and forests. The polar bear, though massive, uses the illusion of stillness and uniform color to vanish against endless ice. Meanwhile, Komodo dragons remain motionless for hours, blending with leaf litter and earth, waiting for unsuspecting prey to come within range. Stealth is rarely about invisibility, it is about managing visibility. Apex predators that employ it must also master stillness, patience, and timing, traits as crucial as claws or teeth. Bite force is another specialization. Jaguars crush skulls. Lions clamp windpipes. Tigers suffocate with precision. But the polar bear, oddly, has relatively low bite force for its size, instead relying on its mass and sharp canines to rend flesh from seals. The Komodo dragon, again, departs from this model entirely, using venom and tearing motion to dismantle prey over hours or days. Even the rhino, with no bite in the predatory sense, possesses a mouth designed to rip entire shrubs from the ground, or, in combat, to gore with blunt persistence. These adaptations emerge into broad predator archetypes, each with strengths and blind spots. The ambush brute, like the jaguar or Komodo dragon, wins through surprise and brute damage, usually in confined or dense terrain. The solitary stalker, tiger or polar bear, invests in patience, stealth, and efficiency over time. The endurance generalist, such as the grizzly or rhino, outlasts its rivals through broad adaptability and physical resilience. The pack hunter, as seen in lions, uses numbers and coordination, and the speed specialist, the cheetah, hinges everything on a brief window of biomechanical precision, a high-risk, high-reward niche where failure is not just costly but potentially fatal. But across all these models, one principle remains consistent: efficiency. Not in the common sense of energy conservation, but in ecological function. Each predator is optimized to exploit a specific niche, pressure a particular prey type, or manipulate a given environment. What evolution rewards is not raw lethality, but ecological balance. A tiger that kills too often depletes its prey base. A rhino too aggressive becomes isolated and vulnerable. Even lions, seemingly at the top of the food chain, face collapse when group size exceeds available resources. Nature's apex predators must not only succeed in killing, but in sustaining the systems they dominate. If there is a final lesson to be learned from this exploration, it is this: no predator, no matter how iconic, is perfect. Perfection in nature is not defined by absolute capability, but by fit, to climate, to prey, to land, to time. The jaguar would fail in the open plains. The cheetah could not hunt in snow. The polar bear cannot survive without ice. Each one is a product of constraints and pressure, shaped not to be universally dominant, but locally supreme. In the end, what nature got right was not a singular alpha design, but a diversified portfolio of excellence. Strength wears many faces: a roar, a chase, a wait, a strike, a stare. And it is in the space between those strategies, in the quiet complexity of each system, that true mastery lies. Evolution did not craft one apex predator to rule all. It crafted many, each a sovereign ruler of its domain, each an answer to a different question asked by the earth.